right.
And,
So what I'm hearing is no.
and should we turn the cameras on for the LRC YouTube
You could do that.
What? Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. Great.
Sure.
if it works?
It'll
I mean, we'll see.
once again for the Patreon.
Yes, right. Oh, my background is messy.
Let me just get this. I want to close my. I mean, for the people, I want to
Your
close
podcast kimono.
my silken gown. Oh man, I'm wearing a silk. I just want to show you guys. I'm wearing a fake silk robe, right? Very nice, floral. And then I'm wearing a longi beneath, which is, essentially a skirt. And I got to tell you guys something. I'm comfortable.
You look pretty comfortable.
Looks super comfy.
I'm a comfortable man. And let me turn.
Did you get that longi in Sri Lanka?
No. My wife got it for me some years before then because I'd always just wanted to, have something comfortable like that to wear. But I definitely wore it in Sri Lanka.
Nice. Yeah, those are. I remember those being pretty popular in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Oh, they're the best. God damn. Okay. Are we rolling standard ancestries, Amelia? What do you wanna be the LRC? Do you wanna do the thing?
I'm gonna do the thing.
Okay, I'm ready.
Just a moment.
Okay, wait. So, Christian, why don't you
Yes.
explain a little bit about LRC while we?
We're
while
not
Amelia
okay.
explaining
sets up?
nothing, Laz.
Whoa!
We're getting right into this.
Okay,
All right.
I'm not gonna do that then, Laz, because Amelia told me not to.
That's right.
That's how LRC worked. So.
Yep,
Makes sense.
exactly.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name's Emilio. That's my friend Christian. We roll characters for different kinds of role-playing games based on all sorts of random prompts and parameters. If it's your first time tuning in, something about subscribing to the channel, I think. I don't remember the
Yes, all that
script.
sort of thing.
And now, let's roll characters.
Yeah. Oh. Pew 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 pew.
We are being joined today by our good buddy Laz. Laz is
He's your good buddy. I don't know him.
I brought him along today just to annoy Christian.
Laz.
It's what I do best.
Laz actually has a history in D&D that dates back to maybe 5th or 6th grade, but recently picked it back up during COVID thanks to me wanting people to play with. And we had a really good campaign together. It was a lot of fun. Laz was playing a character named Burin, who was a sailor who got into some fairly deep and emotional shenanigans down the way. And so
always carried his monkey fist rope.
Yeah, you wanna say anything, Laz? No, cool. Let's get started.
I'll edit my own thing in. Don't worry about it.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So, Laz, could you please roll us a
Oh
D?
boy.
I should just get my player's handbook here.
Yeah, if you want to do
I don't remember the numbers.
If we're gonna do ancestry and culture, the ancestry is a D10.
Oh, do you have all that ready to go in front of you?
I have it.
Oh, great. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
And you'll just have to roll digital dice, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I gotta roll digital dice.
Okay.
I don't have my dice prepped.
Yeah,
Okay,
give us a D10 for ancestry.
All right, here we go. A 2.
That is a dwarf ancestry.
Okay.
Nice.
All right,
I
and
like
now a D10 for culture. And Christian, maybe you're remembering some of this because I'm not writing any notes yet, but I probably should.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right. Let me. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely doing that.
You're
Okay.
taking notes?
I will take notes. All right. Got it.
I've rolled a 2.
Another 2. That is
dwarf culture.
Dwarf culture. All right, you're a
Going
dwarf
all
dwarf.
in on dwarves. Yep.
Dwarf.
All right, now we're going to need a D12 for class.
We got a
Two.
2.
Is it really a 2?
I'm rolling 2s today.
That's a
Is
bard.
there something wrong with your dice roller? Oh, bard. That's fun.
The dwarf bard.
Yep. We're gonna have a D4 for gender.
We have a 3. There we go.
That's non-binary.
Oh, yay!
Non-binary, you said?
Non-binary.
Yep.
And the last is a D20 for background.
4.
A 4 is an entertainer. Oh, that works really well.
Oh, good. Okay.
Bard
Okay.
entertainer. Non-binary. Okay, I can see this guy.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Non-binary person.
Christian, you want to give us a recap of those roles?
Yep. So we got a dwarf ancestry, dwarf culture. We've got a bard, which we seldom roll, so that's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a non-binary they/them character who comes from an entertainer background.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So yeah, normally now I guess we would ask for any initial thoughts. And so, Laz, it sounded like you had something already.
Yeah, so I like the sound of this person. I think, they're steeped in dwarf culture, and I imagine this sort of really rich singing from this bard character. And, kind of used to being underground, these kind of cavernous spaces, and it's a lot of like harmonics bouncing off the different walls, and it's really this like atmospheric experience. And this person is non-binary, so they sort of play with gender in their performance, and you sort of it's like their voice is very kind of their practice. They're an entertainer, and they can do male voices, female voices, and just really set a scene here with music and story.
I love it.
Jeez, that's great. Also,
Yeah.
just again, what a consistent kind of set of characteristics. Like just a dwarf, and a bard who does have the entertainer background. Like, gee whiz.
Yeah.
I love what you're thinking. What are you? Is anything else coming up for you, Emilio, on it? First impressions?
I want to look at the entertainer background quickly, because I love where you're going with that. So so some of the things they ask are, what is their routine? So we're saying they're probably a singer, which is great. I guess. No, we wouldn't do that yet. We don't do the personality and all that stuff yet.
No, we stopped, but I am looking forward to when we roll the stats.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I think this is great. I think so. Like the one thing I would then ask at this point is like, what is some kind of conflict in this person's life that just really maybe in broad Luzette terms.
Well, do we do that before rolling the?
I guess we could just go straight to the.
Because I think sometimes rolling the stats can help sort of identify, what a conflict could be.
That's fine with me too.
Because like if they have really low charisma, that could be really meaningful for a bard, for example.
Right. Okay, let's do that. So let's so we've got a dwarf, who's a singer, who is trained and practiced and has done this singing maybe in as part of mining, and who plays with this sort of their gender fluidity a bit. And so now, let's roll some ability scores. So you're going to roll as 4.
Me rolling? Okay.
4d6, and then we're going to drop the lowest, and we're going to do this 6 times.
6 times? Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You can just do
dropping,
one. You can just do
so
one.
I add them up. All right. So a 10 for my first roll of 4.
So that's strength then. Strength is 10.
Yep. And that's dropping the lowest. The lowest.
Yeah, that's
roll.
dropping the lowest.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, roll again.
That better be for a 10. What's our dex?
11.
Ugh. Constitution.
I'm rolling d6 here, right?
Yep,
Okay.
46.
Yep.
12.
All right.
Okay, that's a little better. Good for a dwarf too. Intelligence.
Ooh, we got an 18.
Oh,
Whoa!
wow.
Wait, is that possible?
I got
I guess
three
that is
sixes and a
possible. Three,
1.
six.
That's the highest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the highest
Wow.
roll you can have.
Dang. Okay. Wisdom.
14.
Oh, very good.
Nice. All right. Now charisma. Make it count.
Here we go. Oh,
Uh oh.
7.
Oh!
What is
You
it?
called it, Christian. 7.
7.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's bad.
Okay.
Um.
This
Okay.
is
Should I go through those again?
this is
Man, that just makes their life more difficult.
they're almost an
Let's be
unplayable
honest. They're
character.
entertainer.
Yeah.
They're
Oh
almost a
man.
what character?
Unplayable.
Unplayable. Yeah.
Unplayable.
As a bard, yeah, that's a tough bard to like. Everything you do will have a penalty. Okay, so just to recap, so that is 10 strength, 11 dex, 12 con, 18 intelligence, 14 wisdom, 7 charisma.
So maybe they've got like a contract with someone rich, so they don't have to be that successful at their actual thing or something. I'm trying to think of some way to make this because they have a high intelligence and like pretty decent, wisdom. So it's like they figured out some way to make the bard thing work, but it can't be through their like extremely successful group performances, I guess. Or maybe I don't know. Is there
Man,
another interpretation of the of a low charisma entertainer bard?
There could be, yeah, yeah. Um,
I mean, I definitely imagine some sort of like you're thinking, Laz, like a propping up of some kind, or
But it could
okay,
be
so
still good skill, like
I mean, they
right?
could play instruments well-ish. No, they have 11 decks. Damn. I mean, here's what I think.
yeah.
Well, let me just put this out there. All right, so we have this insane intelligence score. That's got to be something. Like, how are they using their learned like book smarts to somehow be able to pass themselves off as a bard or in some way sort of be an entertainer? Like
I like where
what
you're
can we
going with
do with
this.
that?
When you said pass someone off, I don't know if you're thinking the same thing, Emilio, but I mean, this sounds a little bit like someone basically undercover.
Oh, okay, okay. Say more
Whoa.
about that.
I mean, this is someone with extremely high intelligence, the kind of person who, and they might have to sort of, they don't actually have any built-in charisma, but they have the skills, they have some ability, and they have, this sort of background. And if someone were to try to have a mole, how to gain someone to sort of sneak in and gain information, you'd want someone with that really high intelligence, high wisdom, to be able to pull off something like that and sort of get in places that maybe other people wouldn't even be allowed or something like that. So maybe it's a subterfuge. Does that make is that
And
is
then
that
and then it's time
feeling all
to
right?
perform their song, and they're just like, wow, wow. And it's like,
Well, but no, they could because this doesn't talk about talent, right? Charisma, like you could have there's like real musicians and real guitar players or whatever with like
with no
no
charisma.
charisma whatsoever,
Sure.
but like they're
Hmm.
super skilled, and so someone else is the front man in their band.
Well,
But
that's what I was thinking.
oh,
I
okay,
think
Hmm.
they're in a band, and I think that they are. Yeah, they're like the bass player, or right, or like somebody that's not the front person,
but who
and
organizes all their shows and gets them their gigs, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Although I like the mole undercover agent angle, so maybe we can work those two in together where they have you know positioned themselves. So they have 11 dexterity, so that would be the skill for playing an instrument. So that's
And that's low too.
slightly above average.
Oh, okay.
It's not they're not terrible, but somehow they've managed to like like trick their way onto a band. Um,
Hmm.
where they have some ulterior motive, but they they're good enough to like and then maybe they've convinced these other musicians who maybe aren't that intelligent, but who have like high charisma, to like let them be part of this so that they can then get inside wherever they need to get. Um, maybe it's a band that is on the rise and maybe is like performing regularly for nobles of some kind, and this person is trying to like either get information or assassinate somebody. And so this is their way to get inside is by like maybe they even like poisoned the band's like previous bass player, and now they're they've taken their
So
spot.
real low charisma move.
Yeah.
Are you guys watching? Do you guys watch The Boys?
Yes.
I saw the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, I've seen
Okay,
the first 3.
Okay, so the 4th season just finished. And in the 4th season, they introduced this character. She's a superhero. Her name is Sister Sage. And her superpower is she's the smartest person in the world. And she is deeply unlikable. And like is well, I don't know if we want to go this angle, but she's basically a psychopath. Like she doesn't have empathy. And so it's all about her capacity to manipulate toward particular ends. And so like I don't know if this character is that, but they could have something that they're trying to make happen. Maybe it's a big picture thing that they are sort of posing in this way in order to, and I know you guys are kind of getting at that, but we could even go so far as to identify what their motivation is for, like big picture motivation is for doing this. I don't know if any thoughts come up with that.
To become president of the United States. It's all coming together.
Oh my God.
We've rolled Kamala Harris.
Oh my God. We rolled Kamala.
Posing as a bard.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So can you go through the other roles a little bit? Because I don't really have the context of whether they're high or low or sort of.
So strength is 10, which is exactly down the middle, totally average, nothing special there. Dexterity is 11, which is, barely
low
above average.
Low for a bard, but
yeah. You don't really need high dex for a bard because a lot of it depends on charisma. But like Emilio said, dexterity we could talk about sort of playing instruments.
Yeah, and if they're a singer, dexterity is not exactly the most.
Yeah. Constitution is 12, so that's their durability. And so dwarfs tend to have higher constitution anyway, so it kind of makes sense. Intelligence 18, crazy. Wisdom 14 is pretty darn good too. Yeah. So that means that not only do they have book smarts, but they also have a solid amount of just, worldly experience. And then charisma. They could also have charisma. We could play the charisma piece, not to go in a different direction, but we could play the charisma piece as like they do have a beautiful singing voice, but they are disfigured in some way. Like that's a particular thing. That's a way to play it. I think that it gets away from kind of what we're doing, but that's something.
Yeah, that's an option. There's also, we don't have to necessarily make them a singer. There are several other like entertainer backgrounds that we could pick from, like fire eater or juggler or poet. And so they could have gotten hurt in, some kind of physical routine that's why their charisma is so low now, because they're like,
I don't really. Would you see that as charisma though? I feel like that to me, those feel like separate things. But like when you said poet, that made me think of some very low charisma individuals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of
poet
fit
struck
a little
something
better
for me too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, because I think you could still be respected as a like very intelligent person, and just people would be like, "Oh God, like I hated that." But
well,
like,
you could be. You go ahead.
Yeah, no, just I think that's kind of, poetry hits for some people and it doesn't for others. I'm not sure how charismatic. I would say like most of the poetry readers, it's like a grab bag maybe. Some of them are excellent, and some of them it's like, yeah, The poetry speaks for itself. They're more of a writer than a performer.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that there's a lot to work with there, and intelligence. If we're talking about just like knowing language and knowing words, I think that really fits. And so I think you can do some pretty good stuff with that.
It's sort of like a George R. R. Martin type, like
Ah,
like really intelligent, like fairly wise, but just like not don't necessarily want to have lunch with him, right? Like,
He
yeah, you're
definitely
like,
doesn't. He doesn't look like a dwarf in any way, though.
uh-huh, yeah,
Like-
uh-huh. Okay, are we settling on poet then?
maybe writer is broader, and we can. I mean, poet's great. I think poet's
if
great.
they got
Well,
if they have
I
to be
mean,
if they're an entertainer, I think poetry is
yeah,
like kind of it has to be somewhere in there. Like the singing, I think was
I
the
think
first
that's a
thing I
good
thought,
point.
but yeah, I think the poetry is pretty good,
Okay,
and you
all
can do a
right.
lot of the
So,
same stuff with poetry.
Sure.
all right, so we got a poet who's got an incredible command of the language, and but their delivery sucks maybe, or they're just disfigured in some. What are we going with there?
Um, what if they're just kind of too high-minded for the people around them, and so like
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I was
maybe it's
thinking.
actually good because they're intelligent, but like they're just not he's not connecting with the crowd.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Can't read the room at all. Uh,
Yep.
just gets into these highfalutin concepts that are brilliant, but nobody can relate to.
And maybe
They're ahead
like
of their time.
yeah.
They're way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Misunderstood genius.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not then deceptive or sort of like posing as one thing in order to get something. Is that kind of what we're saying?
That's kind of a fun storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
I don't know what the other storyline
we
is,
could uncover some of that in there. We could do some of the background stuff now and see if anything comes up for that. But also, we could think about the dwarf piece of it. So why
Hmm.
is what is the connection to dwarf culture? Uh, what are they? What are their poems about that is turning off other dwarves? Um, or
Maybe they're like, yeah.
yeah, not
Maybe,
connecting.
maybe they're kind of too old fashioned almost, where it's like they're deep into the origins, the ancient histories of the dwarves and like this kind of highfalutin stuff that's like, this is not the rest of the world is kind of more integrated with all the different things going on, and this person is sort of stuck a little bit. And I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Is that maybe
It's interesting because like the typical dwarf culture that we think about is tends to be considered like more old-fashioned, more traditional. But I love the idea
Hmm.
that like let's paint a picture of a dwarven society that is trying to move forward, right? That is trying to be progressive and advance and like be more outward
Hmm.
looking. And this person is
they're
still
drinking with elves?
yeah, exactly. They're it's
Hmm.
kind of the dwarf like the dwarf king from Lord of the Rings, the young dwarf king from the Amazon
Show,
show.
yeah.
Yeah, who is like open
Okay.
to other
Okay.
cultures, who has friends who are elves, who grew up with who yeah grew up with Elrond, I think, for some time. Um, but then maybe there's a faction within their you know their society that is still old fashioned and into these like old ideals and wants to be more closed off.
And maybe that's where the intrigue part of it comes in. Maybe this is a bigger behind the scenes kind of battle going on
Yeah.
So they're rebelling against progressiveness
in the dwarven world, maybe.
in the yeah.
What
In
that
the
means, yeah. Does that make sense?
so we've decided we're making an unlikable character to us.
Well, we're talking a low charisma character. I mean, this has got to be
That's
unlikely to
true.
most people.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm sort of reminded of J.R.R. Tolkien, who was like a real like traditionalist
Hmm.
culturally and that kind of thing, and with the language itself, and he really leaned into English culture, and that was like a big part of his whole vibe, and that was part of like the mythology that he was drawing from. I wonder if this is
Yeah, I
like
mean,
the dwarf J.R.R.
Yeah,
Tolkien.
yeah.
I think that's the charitable version of that is not,
Yeah.
necessarily like fighting progressivism. It's like also fighting, modernity in terms of industrialization and just all these kind of
Mm,
things that could come from
mm,
changing the way that dwarves have lived for, you know, their existence.
Oh,
mm,
that I like
mm.
that a lot. Versus not so much, yeah, fighting progressivism, but like there, you often see this like in stories about dwarves. There's like a push to, yeah, create more industry, right, and to make things more efficient, right,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you know, better mining equipment and like person could be like, you should, swing the axe yourself, right? You should swing the hammer yourself, right? Like, let's not create a giant forge that,
Going
makes,
too
Hmm.
far, we're losing our actual, roots here,
yeah.
which is a message like
Okay.
not very fun to listen to, at a bar, at a tavern.
Like,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Here's old graybeard, telling
yeah.
us not to go work at the gold mine anymore. Like,
He or she is very unpleasant.
well, so that's something we've now like moved away from is because you had initially thought that there was, could
No,
be,
we rolled non-binary,
but there could
right?
be,
So
yeah. So we were thinking that this is something that they might incorporate into their entertainment, but maybe it's less of a
right,
factor, um, and they can just identify it as as a non-binary person
right.
without it being part of their act.
It reminds me of like, some of these folks who, we've even known like Mike Kadomia, who is like super like he's the he's the he's the last punk, right? Like he's the last guy to be a punk dude. But his whole thing is like he's so counterculture that he's actually come back around to being conservative, and so he's like kind of this weird conservative dude. I don't know if you guys know that about him.
No.
And like I wonder if there's something there here where they're like so anti what's going on that they I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out the non-binary piece basically.
Yeah, like I
Um,
don't I don't feel like I know enough about like the classic dwarven world. Although I mean, I guess like if
I
the
think we just make
Tolkien
up whatever we
version,
want to make up.
yeah, but I mean, I guess like,
Yeah.
in the Tolkien version you can't really like from the outside you can't really tell men from, I don't know if that's canon for the rest of the D&D uh or Let's Roll characters version of D&D. That like dwarf women have beards also, and so
Oh yeah, I
maybe
don't
that
know.
sort of plays into the non-binary where it's like some people, some dwarves are sort of more ambiguous than others.
Mm, yeah, that's an interesting point. All right, that's something to work with, right? Um, okay.
Oh
what do we
wait, let me
who?
throw one wild card in there
Okay.
on that subject. I'm just thinking like, if is it possible that that was sort of Tolkien's original thing. I haven't actually seen really anybody like continue that women have beards in the dwarven worlds kind of theme. I just remember it from the was in Tolkien's thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem to be in anything else, as far as I can tell. It's not in the new shows. It's, so maybe that's one of the old things that this person holds on to, is that like that's something that is sort of changing in dwarven culture, and they intentionally, keep a beard or stay ambiguous in some way as part of that.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could get down with that for sure. Um, what I want to know is, so okay, they're rebelling against uh, industrialization, and they're doing that through their poetry and through maybe attempts to be sort of like uh, winning arguments in taverns and that kind of thing. Is- but what are like why are they adventuring? Like why are they leaving their home city or fortress or whatever we're calling it, mountain? Why would they want to become an adventurer?
I kind of like
So,
the idea that their adventure is in their city, and
Oh,
that they
okay.
don't necessarily have to go out, looking for new places, because that wouldn't really fit with this sort of traditionalist character. But that they're in a huge dwarven city, and
Hmm. Hmm.
they are, and we could even come back to this kind of mole idea that they are trying to undermine like the current regime that is pushing industrialization. And
Hmm.
maybe they're
Hmm.
even like part of a group of, underground rebels uh, that are like, quietly kind of like, trying to infiltrate the palace and like, you know, change the files or like like break the machinery
Hmm.
or like
Hmm.
something along those lines, right? And you can have a whole adventure and a whole story in like one setting, I think. So I think that could work well for this person.
so I think if you did want to expand it out, but kind of keep that feel, I think this person could potentially travel from like dwarven stronghold to dwarven stronghold, like you know,
Oh.
trying to sort of like the big city, like the old classic big cities. Those are the ones that they are interested in, and that's where they go. And maybe it's all part of this sort of network. Um, but that's the sort of traditional place. They wouldn't really want to spend much time anywhere else, but they would need to get to these different places.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that too.
Trying to find like-minded people, trying to spread the word that the the dwarven kings have gone too far. The council is corrupt and needs to be
The
stopped.
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
dwarves are getting weak because the machines are doing all the work for them.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, is there a particular event like that we want to point to that was like this is what made them feel like it was time to like stand up and actually try to like make a plan to do something about the injustice that they see?
I mean, I could definitely see, if they're whatever their kingdom is, whether it's a large place or a small place, there is a new decree that all the mining machinery is going to be upgraded or replaced or something, and maybe
Mm,
they even lose their job in the mine. Or I don't know if they even, are they a miner? We don't really,
mm,
maybe they're outside of the actual mining, but they just see this change coming, and
Yeah.
uh, and maybe this happens with like the changing of a ruler, like maybe the king dies and the king's son takes over, or there's some new person in power that then pushes out all these new ideas, and they recognize all this change happening around them. Um, and that's what sort of sets them off, wanting to fight back.
So yeah, an alternative kind of backstory or like event. If you had an example, almost like nuclear power or something, where they did go too far and there was a huge collapse somewhere that sort
Mm.
of
Mm.
devastated, either their home where they grew up, maybe they grew up deep, some deep place, and this collapse is kind of like, people give excuses for it, like, oh, like, this was just a one-time thing, they made a mistake, and that'll never happen again, this sort of thing.
Yeah, what do we think happened? Like, what went wrong that has stirred this particular dwarf to action?
Yeah, I mean, they just went. I would say, like, once you start adding machinery into it, you clear too much. You go through too much. If you're in there with the stones and you're feeling and you're hearing what's happening, that's not going to happen. The dwarves will know when they've gone too far. If you're just sending
Mm.
in the machines,
Mm.
you run the risk of ruining the whole city.
Do you think that some machines like completely overmined like a particular essential resource in their city, that now like the city is suffering, and yet the people who created these machines are not stopping? Like, is that something here?
Right. Like that.
What was that resource?
Well, I mean, see, I don't even know if it would need to be a specific resource. I feel like
Mm.
once you're underground, if you're just clearing too much and relying too much on calculations, and it's like you're leaving too much empty space, and that's the root of the problem, and no amount of technology is going to fix that. It only does the opposite kind of thing.
Mm. Mm.
Or it could be something, more kind of catastrophic in like, a mine collapsed, killing a lot of people, a lot of dwarves.
Yeah,
It could
I think
be
that
Mm.
would have to be
Okay,
part of it.
it
Yeah.
could be
let's
something
yeah.
like or like, the Lord of the Rings example of like mining too deep and like finding some evil thing, right? Like we can get real fantasy with this. Like,
Mm.
maybe they unleashed
Mm.
something
Right.
horrible from the depths.
Mm. Yeah, like I like the idea of the mining being nonstop and then that releasing something horrible which killed a bunch of people, rather than like a mine collapse, but an actual like, yeah, magical beast or being that maybe wiped out like 100 people or something, or some ridiculous amount of people,
Yeah, like a
that
whole
would really
city, a whole
cause,
settlement,
yeah, maybe something like that.
and the
um
dwarven council is trying to keep it quiet. They're trying to cover this up.
oh
This our
oh
our dwarf grew up
oh
in this community their whole life,
yes,
and it
yes,
was wiped out due to the negligence of
yes,
and the short-sightedness of the council moving away from the old ways. And
And
yes.
now, to tell you about it, our dwarf poetry expert, and the
Oh
crowd, the
God.
crowd's just looking around. Okay, all right. That was an arousing setup. Let's see how this poet go,
yeah,
how
it's
this
it's just a
Yeah.
poetry
really
session goes.
abstract, like like
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
just
nobody can
yeah,
really. It's really dense and like confusing.
Yeah. And it's
and there's
like,
like
it's maybe epic as well. It probably goes on for like 45 minutes or
goes on
something
for
like
way
that.
too
Yes,
long.
yes.
Oh my God.
And there's like two people who've ever seen it who just think it's the most brilliant, intelligent thing they've ever witnessed, and they have
They've got
a
followers.
tear in their eye. Yeah, there's like tears
Yeah,
in the
they've got like
eyes.
2 followers. I like that. They're going to be the other members of the party.
Totally. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Um. Okay. Um, by the way, I think this should be an older dwarf. What do you guys think about that?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think that
Let's
sounds.
say like 300.
Yeah, is that older? I don't. Yeah, sure.
I think so. I think that's older for
A
dwarfs. I
spry
think,
young dwarf.
Yeah, I mean, is it 500?
I think
What's
no,
old for a
I
dwarf?
think 300 sounds good. Let's see. I got the book here.
They live to about 350 years. So maybe
Okay,
we should say 275?
sure.
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
279. I want to make it a real person age, not some weird round number. Screw that.
Yeah. Actually, it even says like long memory, long grudges is like one of the key dwarf things.
Mm-hmm,
They often
mm-hmm,
remember a very different world.
Nice.
mm. All right, I'm gonna make them, like 5'1" or something. Is that okay? All right.
Sure.
So, what are we doing for a
Oh,
name,
let's quickly do
gentlemen?
their personality stuff. Do we want to do that, or we just want to skip that? We can always skip
Oh
that.
no, and we stopped doing that when
Yeah,
toward the
that's
end
true.
anyway.
Okay, let's do a
Yeah,
name. Yeah.
yeah. Now skip it. Yeah, Laz.
Oh, am I coming up with a name? My
I
God.
mean, you start.
Gosh, I don't know. Man, I feel like all the names I have are so stereotypical. Just like my first thoughts. I'm like, um, yeah. Can I roll something for this? Let me see here.
Yeah. I think
Like I keep thinking like Ragnarok, just because I feel like that's like the, but that's
Hmm.
obviously just like stereotypical dwarf. Um, let me see here.
I mean,
Wonder if
having a traditional name does really work for this character.
it feels like it should be a traditional name, right?
Like Ragnar, like Stonefist is perfectly right. Like something
Yeah,
like that is
yeah.
it's
Okay.
super cliche, but it's like what else would this
Yeah,
person be?
Ragnar on its own actually does sound a little better than,
And you could, and you could go with these sort of like Lord of the Rings ish type names, like Gimli or some variant of that, or Thorin or some variant of that.
Yeah.
Um, and also, we could go with feminine names too, or something that's between, like
right, we do
Hilda.
some reference to
Yeah.
non-binary here. Um, so let's see.
Oh, I you said Gimli, and Gimli is often referred to as like Gimli, son of Gloin, right? I really like if we did like a
Mm-hmm.
blank son of blank, or I guess not son, right? Oh, what would
Oh
we?
yeah, because
Yeah, right.
we don't really
Child
need two
of,
names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
progeny of.
yeah.
Um,
Ragnar,
So
child of Odin.
yeah, or like Ragna or Ragnar, something that makes, like, Ragnar feels masculine, but there's some way to
yeah, if you end it with
be
just the A, I like that.
Ragna,
Ragna, son of or
Ragna,
child of
progeny of. Do we like progeny or child?
I like child. Progeny is a bit of a
child.
mouthful.
Yeah.
I know, but they
What
are
about
like a traditionalist. Okay, fine.
Ragna, child of Ragnar?
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like it's a similar name,
yeah,
but slightly some variant of it.
I think there's something to that where, like, it feels like it's a traditional thing to be named after, very similarly to the previous generation in some way.
yeah.
Ragna, child of Ragnar. Is
Nice.
that what we're going with?
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, all right. Ragna, child of Ragnar, and I don't know. Do we have it?
I think so. And man, you guys were not doing this when AI came out, right? So we could just easily create one of these characters the way they look using AI nowadays.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, it could be so easy, but also less inspired.
I mean, we just made a story about sticking to the old ways, Laz.
Ah,
Did
yeah.
you
Come
not
on,
learn the
Laz.
lesson of Ragna?
I'm sorry,
Jeez.
I zoned out after the third verse. I missed what he was
Nice.
saying, or she.
That's great. All right.
Do
Laz, do you want to tell the story of Ragna, child of Ragnar?
Okay, wait. So how does this work?
So now
Just
you
like
just
a
recap the
recap.
whole thing. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see how much I have in my head here. Okay, so Ragna, child of Ragnar, was born 279 years ago, deep in the mines, and lived a happy childhood, learning how to play music with their family. Old traditional music. They were part of a group that didn't spend a lot of time outside of the hold, and there was a mining disaster that unleashed something terrible, and Ragna was lucky to escape and make it out, but their whole town, their whole village underneath, deep down, was destroyed. And then, kind of even worse, the worst crime, they were forgotten and covered up because of what it said about, there was bigger forces at play. They didn't want to stop mining that deep, even though they should have. And so he didn't even get the honor of an honorable death for everybody. So they devoted their lives to learning everything they can and writing their poetry and trying to tell the story to anyone who will listen, of slowing down what the dwarves are becoming and trying to bring it back to the childhood that they remember. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Very good. Very nice. Very nice.
And they might be undercover also. We're working on that.
And also maybe there's some intrigue thing that we haven't decided yet.
I would, if I, as a dungeon master, that's the direction I would go. I would start you with Ragna on their own, like exploring and trying to tell their story, and then meeting characters who are like-minded and want to do something about it, right? And then have Ragnar make the choice: do I want to work with these people who are proposing something potentially violent, or do I want to go another direction and just kind of pursue my passions and interests?
And this is a very intelligent and wise dwarf,
Yeah.
who, if they make that decision, might have a real impact.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yes, that would be super interesting to see how the kind of the planning and the like strategy would come into play.
All right. Well, I've created the character sheet in our Let's Roll Characters.
Yeah.
Roll 20. So we could always play around with that at some other point.
Oh man,
Nice.
this is great.
Hey.
That's super fun.
That's that show that we used to do.
That's the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
LRC. That was fun. I've never been on LRC.
Yeah, I know. You backdoored it.
We're gonna have to see. Yeah, I have to see how this will be editable. But I gotta say, we kept it tight, Christian. This used to take us 90 minutes.
God, is that true?
Yeah, we were 90 minutes to 2 hours every episode recording, and this was
I feel like this did take maybe like 45 minutes, though.
That's tight.
Okay, all right. Yeah, fair enough. That is pretty tight.
Yeah, I'd have to cut down those fucking hour and a half episodes into 20 minutes. To cut this to 20 would be very easy.
Oh my god! I remember how like you had to sync the audio, or I guess I would sync the audio and then I'd send it your way.
Oh,
you
yeah.
eventually, I think, just started syncing it too. But
so many steps.
Editing.
Oh my god,
it's a nightmare,
isn't it?
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys, why edit so much? I mean, is it the format? Like, did people prefer it? Is it just? I mean, I really don't know. Like, are people not going to watch a 45-minute, 90-minute? I mean, obviously, everybody's going to listen to this full podcast.
Right.
Without editing.
Yes, obviously, we're definitely going to make sure that this is part of the full episode.
Yeah,
it could be like episode 2 of this podcast, like we've done before.
Yeah,
I think it was more just my idea of what the show should look like.
You want it to be fast paced and like keep people's, just keep it moving. I mean, I know you watch a lot of shows like that.
I wanted it to be
that makes
punchy.
sense.
Yeah, I wanted it to feel. I get bored.
Well, and I support that too. Like I agree. I didn't have a different opinion on that. I think it needed to be digestible, basically.
Yeah. But I think there is a place for a 45-minute unedited Let's Roll characters. If it's like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we were doing that, we were trying.
We weren't,
and I feel like
we weren't showing up in
if we were to do this again,
in our silk robes. And
I feel like if we were doing this again, we would just have to choose not to try hard, right?
Right.
We would just have to show up, do it, whatever. Use this program, which does all of the work that we were struggling to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, when we have the new player's handbook, it could be a fun exercise for a handful of.
It could be fun.
Things.
I think you should just post this, whatever this ends up as, on your Let's Roll Characters YouTube as like a Let's Roll Characters bonus episode.
Sure.
Bonus episode. We're still alive.
We're still out here rolling characters.
For our ones of viewers out there.
We still got that kimono that I was wearing on Let's Roll Characters.
Yeah, I should have had a signature outfit, and this should have been it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question on that.
That's a real missed opportunity.
Yep.
All right, well, guys, I think we did it.
Did it? We solved it all.
We did it. We did a show, and also
we did two shows.
We did do 2 shows. That's true.
Yep.
All right. Well, fun seeing you guys.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I see you later.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.